What's up, everybody? It is Monday. My name is Jason Flame, and thank you for signing on and watching the Master Motivation Show. And my guest today is Mr. Jose Escobar. How are you, sir?
I am fantastic. Thanks for
Good.
having me, Jason. Good to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to talk, and we got a lot to talk about because there's a lot of books back there, and I know you got a lot of stuff going on. I've been doing this interview series for the entire 2021 year, and it was my goal to highlight mostly people in the industry, the martial arts industry, but I brought on a lot of guests that really the idea is anybody that has motivated me and inspired me. I just wanted to highlight them and get them on the show. Some people I know really, really well. Some people we have a connection on social media. Some people we've met in person and had some great times together. You and I met. I believe the first time it was at the main event. And then I know we've talked at the Super Show many times. We both have a love for professional wrestling, so we might get into that a little bit too.
That's right.
So, hey, let's just jump right in. And as people are logging on and watching, why don't you start with maybe your background and just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So right now, first of all, I'm married, happily married to my wife, Katie. Been married for about 5 years and through the church. And then we also have 4 children from 13 to 4 months, as you put it in the bio. Professionally, I'm the sales director for Educational Funding Company, and they've been around for, 53 plus years out of Chevy Chase, Maryland, martial arts space, and worked my way up there. I was a coach for martial arts schools for a number of years there, and eventually got promoted to sales director. I love it. Fantastic place to be, great people, and you get to meet all kinds of amazing martial artists along your journey. I also get to travel a lot, which is pretty cool. I met you at numerous different events. And as far as my side hustle, as they say, I might throw in a couple of books here and there. The
Nice.
side hustle. I got a couple side businesses that I've done over the years. I had a social media marketing agency, Fat Class Marketing, which was doing pretty good initially about 2 years ago, and had a number of clients. Kind of dwindled down a little bit after COVID because my niche was restaurants and bars. So I got certified by Ty Lopez. I don't know if you ever heard of that guy. He's this millionaire guy that's like a guru when it comes to like social media, right? Right next to the Kardashians, right? So this guy, he had a certification program, spent a few grand to learn all that on how to do it, how to create copy, how to create the ads, how to target people, all that good stuff. And I chose restaurants and bars, and that got hit pretty much the hardest in my area, DC, Maryland, Virginia. And so I decided to move the cheese, and I eventually launched the Entrepreneur's Bookshelf, which is exactly what you see behind me. So right now it's a Facebook group with a little over 400 members. And what we do is we're pretty much a group, a community of individuals who are entrepreneurs who love to read books and are committed to personal growth. And working on launching my digital courses. Right now, I just wrapped up my first one, which is on morning and evening routine mastery, which is something I'm really excited about that helped me tremendously in my life. So that's a little bit about, who I am and what I do.
Excellent. Well, I look forward to getting a little bit deeper into that. And I know that a lot of people that are, whether they're watching this now or they're watching later, will find a lot of motivation and inspiration behind listening to you. So what I want to do is go way, way back.
Sure.
Talk about your childhood. Let us get to know your history a little bit. Where were you born and raised? What were some of the things that you liked to do as a kid? How did you get involved in martial arts in general? Before working for EFC.
Yeah. So, taking it way back.
Way back.
I was born in Washington, D.C. Diehard Redskins fan. Now Washington football team. Who knows what they're going to be? But I'm a diehard burgundy and gold. I grew up on watching football, NFL on my dad's lap. My parents have been happily married for 45 plus years.
That's awesome.
And, I learned a lot from my parents. I was first generation here in this country. I'm one of 4 boys. So I have 2 older brothers and 1 younger brother. And there was a lot of testosterone in the house growing up. Even at one point, we had a Rottweiler that was also a male dog, and eventually I had 2 guinea pigs, which were males. So let's just say my mom was well protected, right?
Right.
And as time progressed, so they came to this country in their 20s, and my dad did everything from the dishwasher at a restaurant to eventually owning his own restaurant. And he owned two separate ones, and he also built houses, doing construction. So he came to this country knowing zero English, worked his way up. And then my mom, she was also a really hard worker. She was cleaning multiple houses a day. So she cleaned, I don't know, like 4 or 5 houses a day, and for many years. And then eventually she started a company. She got involved with Jafra Cosmetics. I don't know if you ever heard of that company.
Yes.
It's pretty much like Mary Kay, same concept, network marketing. And she started doing that. She grew tremendously, in that company, and she's been doing it for, I don't know, 40 years now. And so my mom eventually left cleaning houses altogether and was just doing her business, and it continued to grow and escalate and grow and grow and grow. So my parents were very much entrepreneurs growing up. So I always said to myself, one day I want to be that. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to pursue something for myself and look in the mirror and decide whether I want to work harder or not, and not be dependent upon somebody telling me what to do. So that's kind of the environment I was raised in. And so I guess that's a little bit about what you wanted to hear, right?
Yeah, well, no, so it sounds like, you're a lot of your inspiration and obviously who you are today
Yeah,
stemmed from how you were raised, your father being in the restaurant business and both being entrepreneurs, hardworking people.
right.
You're someone that I see that's always working it, right, whether it's learning or doing or just being out there. I'm watching, and there's a lot of stuff going on, so it sounds like you got a lot of that from your parents. Talk a little bit about your siblings. You said there's a lot of testosterone. I grew up
Yeah.
with two brothers myself, right? So
Okay.
my mom, like you said, was well protected. As a matter of fact, we're all black belts and martial artists as well. Interestingly enough, you brought up that your dad was in construction, built houses. That's my father was a builder for 40 plus years. So that you learn a lot about that work ethic when you're kind of doing it all, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, my parents, I learned the definition of hard work from watching my parents. If they instilled one thing in me, they impressed upon me when I was young, was outside of the example of what it is to be like a good family. My parents were all about, we're Catholic. I was a cradle Catholic, so I learned values and morals and faith and what it is to learn respect and kindness and courtesy and humility and all these things growing up from them. But outside of those other the foundational things, the biggest thing I took away from my parents was hard work, because they literally are the example of the American dream. They came to this country. They went through the whole citizen, process you had to go through. They became U.S. citizens, and they raised us, the right way. And eventually, they went from like all four of us in an apartment in Montgomery County, Maryland, Hewitt Avenue. I still remember, wonderful. I have made so many awesome friends there, but we were all like four boys in a bedroom, growing up, from like 0 to 10 years old. At least that's where I was. My older brothers were a little bit older, but we were like in bunk beds, and we started off that way. And then eventually my parents worked their way. They bought a house, a single family home for us. They wanted us to have a backyard, and they wanted us to experience that, still fairly young. And then eventually they progressed and moved up to a house that eventually was evaluated over $1 million in this beautiful neighborhood in my area. So they went from zero to hero over time, over the stretch of 30, 40 years. And they really did some amazing things. Now they're retired, and they're kind of like relaxing and relaxed mode and all that good stuff. But that's a little bit about what I learned from them. My brothers, well, my oldest one, he's an IT guy, and he does some government work as well. He's successful, married with 3 kids. My other brother, my second oldest brother, Mike, he actually just got married recently, and lives with his wife. No kids yet, but they love dogs, and he's always been into boxing. So I always saw him in the martial arts boxing world. And then my younger brother is also in the computer space, IT. He has his own business, and he also has his own business called Pray Latin, which is like prayer cards in Latin. Um,
Wow.
So he started that from scratch, and now that they're making quite a bit of money doing that, and he's also pursuing the entrepreneurial route as well. And then there's me. So
Oh, well, thank you. Thanks for sharing all of that. It's always interesting for people to learn more about your background and hearing because you're going to have, I'm sure, some of your friends from your group watching this video later and learning even more that maybe they didn't know about you. And
right,
it's always kind of inspiring too to hear about, like you said, that American dream of working from literally zero to the top. What
right.
was that? What was that like as a child? How did it affect you in a way that maybe was there any insecurity of being kind of at a lower income level and not having as much, maybe in an area where people had more? What was that like?
It's interesting because growing up, I never knew that we were tight with money.
Hmm.
And it's interesting, of course, to an extent. There's like obvious things, like for example, we're in the store and my parents are like, yeah, we're not going to buy that because we don't want to spend money on that right now. So to me, that tells me, okay, they don't have the money. So obviously, we're not like rolling in the cash, right? But generally, I mean, we went to Disney World on a road trip, growing up. So I got to experience that. We always went on trips. We went to the beach. We went to numerous places. We did a lot of things. I always had love in the home. I always had love in the home. There was always the joy factor. And me, my personality, I'm very outgoing. Sometimes I forget to inform my face. You would never know I'm happy just because I'm naturally a serious person. But I'm definitely the social guy. Like I always meet people everywhere I go. I love to expand my circle and network. So I was the one in the family, and my parents would attest to this too, that would always want to get the family together. I'd say, hey, let's go watch a movie together, or hey, let's play a board game, or hey, let's do this, to kind of rally everybody together. It was just my thing. I just enjoyed that. But there was a lot of joy. There was a lot of um, entertainment in the house at all times, at all times. So I never really paid attention to the fact of like, well, this person has that or this person has that, because I always had what I needed and I never lacked in anything. My parents gave us everything we needed and then some. I had every game system, every console you can think of, although we were tight. So my parents basically picked and choose like what they would give certain kids that would make them happy, and they found a way to make it work.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, like you said, it's interesting that when you look back, or at the time, you really had no idea what it was either way. I mean, like you said, you were loved and you had everything you needed, or maybe in some cases things that you wanted, because your parents sacrificed, your parents worked hard, they wanted to provide you, with a great start. As a father now to four children, how how has that affected how you're raising your children now, and the things that you do for your kids?
Well, there's definitely the hard work piece. Like I wake up very early. I go to sleep generally at a reasonable hour, but kind of late after everybody else. And I want to make sure that my kids catch me in the act of excellence as often as possible. And I caught my dad many times. I caught my mother many times, pursuing the American dream, working hard, being passionate, making zero excuses, not complaining, not asking for handouts. Like I saw my parents do that, and that's something that I'm trying to instill in my kids. Is listen, there is no free laundry, right? You like no ticket, no laundry, right?
Hmm.
You got to look at the end of your own arm. Sometimes you got to roll your sleeves up and you got to do what you got to do, and it's not going to be convenient a lot of times. We have to live in that space of discomfort, and I saw my parents do that, and that's something that I'm really instilling in my kids. And it's not by my words. I could tell them all day till I'm blue in the face, work hard, have integrity, be accountable, be a kind person, be patient. I could tell them all kinds of things about how to be virtuous and how to be hardworking. But if my actions don't align with my words, then that means diddly do, right?
Correct.
So it's all about living what I expect from them, showing them, leading by front. And that's what it's all about.
Well, and this is one of the reasons that I absolutely wanted to have you on the show and talk about this, because I have so much respect for that type of mindset and that kind of thinking, that we Words mean nothing. Actions speak louder than words. And like you said, you caught your parents in the act of excellence. And when your children see you reading, see you working out, see you eating healthy, seeing you treat people with respect, they see it and they mimic it. And unfortunately, the opposite is true as well, right? So like you said, if you're talking about it but not doing it,
That's
it's
right.
just not gonna make a lot of sense.
That's
So
right.
let's go into the teen years as we're becoming adolescent, working into an adult. Um, Talk to us about what school was like for you, and did you go to college, and what area did you want to pursue?
Yeah, so growing up, I always generally got good grades. From elementary school, I was always like the A and B generally. It's really hard to not do well in elementary school. So I did really good. I was always the class clown. Within reason, I was never crossing boundaries or anything like that. I think I even got the class clown award in fifth grade. But then I went to middle school, and I took a major like dump like this. I was one of those problem childs in middle school. And when I say problem childs, I mean like I was removed by one school in sixth grade, and then I went from there to another middle school, and then I had controversy there, and then I got removed from that one, and then I went to a private school, which is St. Catherine Labouré here in this area, and I went there, and I finished eighth grade there because it was like, where else am I going to go? And the crazy thing is that at that stage in eighth grade in a private Catholic school, I was almost removed from there too. but my dad had a great relationship with the church and the ones in charge there, because he was a youth minister at that church. And it's weird because he's a youth minister and I'm here acting like like a fool. But the interesting thing is that and then I went to high school. I went to Rockville High School in my area and Maryland, and I did 4 years there. Eventually, I graduated and got my diploma. Now, then I went to Montgomery College. It is a college here in this area. I went there. I did about 2 years like this,
Right.
and then I just decided, you know what, this is just not something I want to pursue. So I have some education, I guess you could say, is what I did at that college, and I decided to just get into the workforce. I said, let me just get into the workforce. And going back to like I had an era from like sixth grade ish up until like the second year of college, like that gap of time, which was a long gap. In hindsight, I would have done a lot differently, right? But I don't necessarily live a life of regret, because I wouldn't be who I am today with the insights I have today and the passions and the visions and dreams that I have today if I didn't go through that experience. So I went through certain things and a lot of challenges, and I never went too far off the deep end to where I couldn't come back from it. But I got to tell you, Jason, I did poke my toe there, and I did toe the line quite a bit in a lot of ways during that era. But again, I always had that draw from the way my parents raised me,
Mm-hmm.
to where they raised me right, but I still did what I did because I'm my own person. But in the back of my mind, I would come home and then I'd behave like this innocent person, and then I act like an animal when I leave the house, and it was just I don't know, it was just who I was at the time. I was just a wild character. And,
Right.
and then eventually I put my life back on track, and then here we are, a lot.
So, is there anything, and I just want to dig in a little bit. Is there anything that you think contributed to? Were you testing the waters? What was that all about? Where you had this period of time? Was it rebelliousness? What about it kind of pulled you that way?
So it's funny because I've always had this like certain level of influence to where I would like make decisions and people would follow me.
Mm,
I don't know what it was. I'm not sure. I never really pinpointed that, right? But I always would be the one to say, "Hey guys, let's do this," and guys would be like, "Yeah, let's do that," And then it would just be like problems, right? but again, birds of a feather flock together. So I would find the people that would be willing to do ridiculous things, because I knew who to find, and I knew how to orchestrate what I wanted to make happen, and that's kind of what happened. And it's interesting because my parents would be like, Jose is not that kid. Jose is not that. Like, that's not who he raised. That's not who he's a good kid. He's a good hearted kid. But everybody says that about everybody. Oh, he's a good hearted kid. And the reality is that's not always true. But they were like, yeah, he's a good kid. And they were right. I was a good kid. I had a good heart, but I was making my own decisions. And my decisions at the time were, I want to have fun. I want to create excitement. I want to live outside of the box that everybody lives in. I want to try different things. I want to see where the line really lies. Is it what my parents said, or is it myself? I want to learn from my own experience, right? They say the best teacher is experience, right? But that's only half of the saying. It's only the best teacher if it's somebody else's experience. Because if it's your own experience, it costs you time and money. Two things we don't want to lose, right? So I made those mistakes, and it cost me time and money that I can't get back anymore. But again, I never strayed too far from what I knew was right, and I always had the opportunity through God's grace to come back and be where I am today at this point.
And is there a defining moment that said to you, or you just said, this is it. I'm changing my path, and I'm moving in this greater, better position. Can you think of anything that really set things apart?
Yeah, one thing that definitely sticks out is my parents went through some testing times with me, to where they didn't know if I was going to come home. And if I would come home, sometimes I'd be intoxicated, or I was never really into drugs or anything like that, but I would have too much to drink with my friends. And
Hmm.
and unfortunately made poor decisions, getting behind the wheel, coming home, and nothing's ever happened, thank God. But like, those were really poor decisions growing up,
Right.
and I would watch my parents suffer through that. And at the time, I felt bad, but I didn't feel bad enough to where I made the change.
Right.
Until one day, like, it was like the climax where like all hell broke loose, and my mom was crying, and my dad was like really upset, and he sat me out in the front yard or whatever, on a little, like, this, the deck or whatever, and he sat me there, and he just had a heart to heart with me, telling me how he would never let me fall completely down. Like, he'll always be there. He'll always help me. He'll always guide me. My mom felt the same way, but my mom was a little bit more like on the emotional side than my dad. My dad was more like, I'm gonna walk you through this process. And so that's kind of what happened. He loved me through the process. He loved me through the process, and that, I can't say it was like one defining moment that I recall, but I can say there was a few defining moments that collectively led to me saying enough is enough.
Right. And looking back now as a parent, we look at some of the mistakes we've made. We look at some of the ways that we tested our parents, and it gives us such a greater. I can't tell you how many times I've called my own parents and said, "How did you get through this? How did
Yep.
you put up with that? How did you allow me?" You know, and they said, we always knew that you would find your way. It just took a few bumps to knock you back into place. But yeah, it's just so interesting to look at it through different eyes
Hmm.
now as a parent. So again, thank you for sharing all of this. This is, I think this is just really good information for people to hear, and people love to hear, because I'm sure anybody watching this could talk about similar stories and have that similar feeling, and it's just a little bit reassuring as a parent too, to be able to provide that experience, like you said, to your kids.
Yeah.
So let's talk about college. So you said you went to it sounds like a community college,
Right.
and it just wasn't for you. And I
Hmm.
find that kind of a theme with a lot of our guests. A lot of people in the martial arts industry that
Yeah.
decided that the pursuing education was not their thing. They wanted to get to work right away. They wanted to be an entrepreneur. They wanted to be their own boss. Sounds like you had a similar experience. Was there anything that just drew you away from school right away, or just really changed that moment for you?
I think the biggest thing, as far as not pursuing the higher halls of intellect, is the fact that at the time I wasn't mature. And they say sometimes men mature later than women generally, boys and girls. That's
Right.
just what I've heard. I don't know how true that is, but
Very.
I'm sure there's some truth there. So I wasn't necessarily mature and ready to do that, So my excuse to myself was, that's not for me, because I hear it all the time. I hear people say, oh yeah, reading's not for me. It's just not something I want to do. I do audiobooks. Reading's not for me. Well, it can be for you if you want it to be for you. It's not necessarily just not for you. It's just you choose that it's not for you, but it could be for you. And who knows how your life could turn out if you make that choice to make it be for you. So in hindsight, I would have pursued the way I should have, but we're not going to talk about what I would have done. We'll talk about now. So I chose to just go straight into the workforce. I got into sales immediately because I've heard numerous times from numbers of people that I had the gift for gab, and that I was like a people person, and that, oh, you should be an attorney, that kind of. I've heard of all kinds of similar comments that kind of like made me believe that maybe sales is the path. And I enjoy people. I enjoy talking to people. We all sell in some way, shape, or form. And so I got straight into sales, and I was selling like luggage and wallets, crocodile wallets and backpacks at a luggage store. And I have had just about every sales job you can think of. And I moved my way up the ranks to banking, management, to insurance, life insurance, all the way now to sales director of EFC for the U.S. territory, which is what I cover. And yeah, so that's kind of what I eventually did.
Yeah, and I want to go back. You were talking about the reading thing, and
Yep.
you're obviously wearing the 75 hard shirt, which I've talked about on this show many, many times. And I was one of those people that really said reading is not for me, and
Yep.
75 hard changed that because when I was presented with these are the challenges that you have to complete to do 75 hard. Reading was one of them, and what I found, and for me, what has worked is I read 10 pages a day every day since December 1st of last year. I've never missed a day of reading, but I only read 10 pages a day. And that's
Yep.
that's my trick. I trick myself into I just need to read, my 10 pages a day, but I do it every day and the consistency. And I don't read multiple books at the same time. I stick with one book until I finish it all the way through.
Yep.
Also, one of the things with 75 hard, uh, challenges you in that way. But anyway, I think the point is whatever it is that you say you can or can't do, you're probably right? So you have to make the choice, and there has to be a reason that you make that choice. So you talked about getting into sales, and now you're working for EFC. For those people that are watching that don't know what EFC is, talk about EFC for a second, and then what your role is in the company.
Yeah. So the educational funding company is based out of Chevy Chase, Maryland. Back in 1967, I believe it was, whatever the 53 plus years math is there. Um, the original founder, Nicholas Kokinos, he founded a company. He owned 5 or 6 Arthur Murray dance studios at the time in Chevy Chase, Maryland. And he went to West Point and had learned systems there, business systems on how to run a business effectively, like a studio type thing, right? And he was running those systems there, and it was really successful. And he opened multiple locations. And then one day, in one of his locations, Jun Rhee walks in to his dance studio and says, "Hey, can I lease this spot here?" And the guy is like, "Who are you?" Or Nick Aquino says, "Who are you?" And he is like, so he does a high kick, like all the way up to his nose, like right here, and almost kicks him in the face, like really fast, right? And stops like right there, and he's like impressed. So he's like, "Oh, okay." And he's like, "I'm Jun Rhee, right?" So he says, "I want to rent your space." He says, "No, I'm not going to rent it to you." They have a discussion. He ends up going to his martial arts school to check it out. He's like, "I'm intrigued. I'll check it out. I'll see what we can do." He walks in there and he sees that there's a bunch of guys kicking each other's butts. There's really no system in place. A lot of potential, injuries that can happen. The phone is ringing off the hook. Nobody's answering it. People walk in. Nobody's addressing them. There's no structure. So he says to him, "Listen, I'm not going to lease my space, but what I will do for you is I will teach you how to answer that phone. And I will teach you how to run an effective class. I will teach you how to read people walking in and how to market your school and how to grow your school." and I'll do it for free. And then once I get you to a couple locations, then I just want 5% of everything you make. And he said, deal. So that's how the EFC started. And again, that was however many, 53 years ago. And eventually, so we started out as a billing company to where we're a third party. So you have your school, Jason, and we would say, hey, listen, you focus on teaching and training and doing what you need to do and marketing your school. We'll focus on the tedious work that's going to potentially affect the student-teacher relationship, and we'll collect the money for you, and we'll get you paid and process your payments and update credit cards and do all those things that you don't want to do.
Right.
And that's how it started. Eventually, after many years of successfully doing that and growing to hundreds of schools, we decided to go global. So now we're in Australia, UK, New Zealand, Canada, the list goes on. And we decided to start the coaching side. So the second order, we got the billing and then the coaching, right? And the coaching piece is like, just because you're a black belt in martial arts doesn't necessarily mean you're a black belt at running a business. So we said, let's teach you the blue book of how to run a successful martial arts school and grow it. So then we would not only do your billing, but we will do the coaching, and we'll help you get from 5K to 10K to 20K per month and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. And we just collect a little small chunk percentage, right, based on the whole book of your business. And that's how we started to grow and grow. And eventually we started doing conventions and summits. We've been doing that for 35 plus years all over the country, all over the world. We just had one recently where we had Boss Bruton come in, which was pretty cool. It was virtual, unfortunately. But that's kind of where we went. And then we expanded into the app. We have a Budo Code app for martial arts schools, and we bought that company, which was its own entity, but we kind of put it under the EFC umbrella. Mm-hmm. And then we acquired other companies over the years, a social media marketing agency called Digital Harmony at the time for martial arts schools. And we expanded into now Abby AI is our most recent acquisition, which is a web design lead generation company, very similar to like 97 Display or Market Muscles type deal. But we have artificial intelligence as the engine that runs that, which is pretty exciting stuff. So that's kind of the latest of kind of what we're doing, but that's who we are as a company and what we have. We're like the Swiss Army knife of the martial arts world, right? It's like one company, and we can pretty much do anything you need us to do to help you grow.
And so amazing that it started off with a who's Junri. You know, anybody that's watching that knows anything about martial arts has been in the martial arts industry for a while. Like Junri is someone you know. So that's a great backstory and history on the company. Now, what exactly is your focus? You said you're the director of sales. So what does that entail for you?
So primarily anything and everything sales related goes through me at EFC right now. So I'm pretty much just a U.S. territory. We have our own sales directors and different things for different countries. But here, that's pretty much what I do. So our main focus right now is Abby AI. And that's, you know, like the latest thing that's out there that's growing exponentially. And then we also for the last 4 years or so, we've had the TAP software under the hood that we've been kind of developing that still hasn't launched. It's about to launch very soon. It's already in beta testing, but that's kind of, my main thing is to sell all the products and services. I sell myself. We have a team, and that's kind of the extent of that.
And so talk to me a little bit about the learning curve of when you first came on with EFC in the beginning and getting involved in sales to where you are now today with all the experience that you have. You know, what was that like? I mean, how much of a learning curve was there? You were already a good salesman. You had a good personality, you know, because personality is everything.
Sure.
What was it like learning all the systems and gaining that knowledge?
So when I first walked into EFC, I was trying to work there for years, Jason. Because the grandson of the original chairman, Nick Okinos, is the grandson, is my best friend. And he was the best man at my wedding. I'm about to be the best man at his wedding. He's getting married later this month. And anyhow, I was telling him for a long time, I was like, listen, man, like I'm a sales guy and I'm also a coach. Like, I mean, I coach insurance people, had a team of agents. I even did Amway for some time and got to a platinum level, had a bunch of people under me. I don't know if you ever heard of Amway.
Of course.
Yeah. So I had all this, you know, random experience of sales. I also had management experience and coaching experience. So I said, like, bring me in there. Like, the only thing missing is the martial arts piece. If you can kind of throw martial arts in there too, which I'm passionate about and love, it'll be a perfect fit. So eventually I got hired. Most people that work there have been working there for 30 plus years. They're like a tight knit family. So I'm just like, I can't even get in there. So eventually somebody retired. And then I got in there and I had Commander Ned. This guy's 92 or 93 years old. He's been there forever. He sat me down and he said, I'm going to teach you the ropes. And then I had John Coquinos, who is the current CEO of Educational Funding Company, and he sat me down and taught me the ropes. Nick Coquinos, the grandson of the chairman, sat down and said, hey, man, I'm going to teach you everything I know. So I started hand selecting in my mind, who do I know that are the movers and shakers in this company? And I need to pick their brain, and I need to find time in their schedule to learn. So I learned on my own. I also learned through their system, and I already knew sales, and I already knew management. I already knew coaching in general, just, one-on-one coaching, and they taught me their systems, and then I just plugged in, and they had their systems they've had for years. So I just kind of plugged in, and then I put my own twist on it. And I'm an avid reader, voracious reader, love to read books. And I also am all about personal growth. So when I was coaching clients, I would throw my own 2 cents in there. I would like follow their blue book, right? But then I would throw my own, hey, and what are you currently reading? Why aren't you reading? You should be reading a book every single day, and this is what you should read. And why don't we talk about that the next time we get on our coaching call? And then I would like start implementing different things that were my own twist on things. And they loved it. I was coaching about 120 schools in my portfolio across the country. And once I stopped doing that, there was a lot of people that weren't too happy because we had a tremendous relationship and I was helping schools grow. And but again, it speaks to not just the systems of EFC, but also my own flair, my own personality that I threw in there, and what I love most. And when I started sharing what I love most, which is reading and personal development, personal growth, people started seeing that little edge that they didn't have before.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Tell us about your background. You talked about your brothers doing boxing and martial arts, and
Yeah.
talk about your background in boxing, martial arts, physical
Yeah.
fitness. What are some of the things that you enjoy? What are your hobbies outside of that?
Yeah, so martial arts related for maybe, I don't know, 12 or 13 years ago, something like that. I joined Team Lloyd Urban in Camp Springs, Maryland, jiu-jitsu school. They had a lot of amazing guys back then when I walked in the school there. Mike Fowler, Keenan Cornelius, JT Torres, Frank the Crank Camacho. I mean, the list goes on of all these guys under one roof, an amazing team. And they were telling me it's the best of the best. So I went to a couple of other schools in the area, and they were like number 3 on my list. And I said, this is the spot. Like, it's an hour away from my house, but I said, I'm willing to drive an hour each way to be with the best from the way I understood it at the time. And granted, there's a lot of people in the area that could be considered the best in the area. It's different, depends on what metrics you're looking at, right? But I really enjoyed that time there. I was doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for, I don't know, 5 years, but it was like on and off. It was like I was never consistent with martial arts. So I was always doing this and this and this. And eventually, when I was there, I left and I went to Clinch Academy in Frederick, Maryland with Luke Reinhardt. And that was a tremendous time there. And when I went there, I was like, trying to pursue this, trying to continue to get to that next phase of my martial arts. But frankly, moving up the ladder just never seemed to happen for me in jiu-jitsu. And I'm like, I got to find a way to get this done. So right now I'm still pursuing, trying to get to the next levels in jiu-jitsu. Again, I've probably, if there's one area in my life where I've been inconsistent, it's martial arts. Just because of training, martial arts training. I'm consistent with reading. I'm consistent with going to church. I'm consistent with my family. I'm consistent with work ethic. I'm consistent with a lot of things. But like that's been the one thing that, has been a difficult challenge for me. So I did Muay Thai there. I did Jiu-Jitsu, wrestled in high school a little bit as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually I left Frederick because I moved here in Silver Spring with my family. And I ended up going to Todd Margolis, Potomac MMA, which is, closer to my area. Todd Margolis, awesome martial artist. So that's where I'm at now, but I haven't been there since March of 2020. ever since the COVID thing hit. So my intention is to get back in the mix and pursue BJJ once again. I think my brother did boxing as well. He was more of the boxer. I never really messed around with boxing.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right. Well, good for you. So let's dive into the entrepreneur's bookshelf, which is, as you said, kind of a side hustle. You have that Facebook group,
yeah.
um, and obviously, looking at that bookshelf behind you, one of the questions that I asked you is, have you actually read every single one of those books? And you said no, but I plan to. And you even said, for every one book that I read, I buy five more.
Right.
You're like you said, you're an avid reader and a huge proponent for that. So, talk to us a little bit about the backstory of how did the Entrepreneur's Bookshelf start? What are your future goals for it as well?
So it started with the idea that, okay, COVID is going on. I can't really pursue what I want to pursue, which is fat class marketing. It was on a nice uphill trajectory, and I was like excited about it. And then all of a sudden, I was like, I got to do something. I got like, what is the trend? Trying to foresee trends on how to make the most money. And sure enough, I said, okay, it's definitely digital courses. Everything is going digital. Zoom is skyrocketing in so many ways, and everybody's online these days. So I said, I got to get into that. So that's where Entrepreneur's Bookshelf came about. My wife is also an avid reader, so we were throwing around names and ideas of whatever, and that's what it came to, the Entrepreneur's Bookshelf. So eventually I said, well, let me start a community. Let me start a tight knit group of entrepreneurs who love to read books and committed to personal growth. So that was like the foundation of the group now. So in the actual Facebook group, I put my own little trainings in there on various different things. I call it the daily marginalia,
Hmm.
which is I just pick up any book that I'm currently reading and I say, hey, this is something I learned today in this particular book. I also
Hmm.
do book breakdowns. It's very similar to like a book review. But the book breakdown is not necessarily a thorough review, like a long, drawn out review. It's just like 3 or 4 main key points that I took from the book that I'm extracting and I'm going to apply to my life that I recommend for you. And then I talk about some basic things. Of course, motivational memes and different things like that. I have my book off the shelf. Every day I'll post, Monday through Friday, I'll post a book. For example, like this one here, C.S. Lewis, The Reading Life, and I'll just post a book that is in my library. So I just kind of pull back the curtain and show you what I have here. I have a little over 1,000 books at the moment, and it's constantly growing. And I'll just kind of share ideas because again, there's so many books out there that you wouldn't know what's out there unless you're told about it. So I'll just post a particular book in there as well, and so all kinds of ideas of things that I'm doing in the group, trying to add as much value to people as possible, and also people put in their own stuff in there as well. So that's kind of where we're at. Love paper. Audiobooks are great too. Yes, I absolutely am a paper and pen person. I prefer books. And let me speak to that real quick. Not to get too sidetracked, but there's nothing wrong with audiobooks. I think audiobooks are fantastic. But if I'm going to listen to something, I prefer to listen to a podcast, kind of like this. Just because it's like more of an interview format and it's something that you won't necessarily read in a book. There's so many people out there that are walking around with a book in their brain,
Hmm.
right, but haven't actually written a book. So those things come out in these type of platforms. So I'd rather listen to a podcast. When it comes to like reading, I see it as like free weights versus a resistance machine. When you're doing free weights, like bench press, the stabilization required is going to incorporate all these extra muscles that you wouldn't normally work out if you're using just a stationary machine like this.
Right. Right.
So the fact that reading a book is going to target the eyes, the ears, the auditory when there's so many different components to that actually research shows is much more beneficial for you in so many different ways than just listening to an audio, although there's nothing wrong with an audio.
Yeah, and thank you, Joel, for commenting. I know that there's a couple other people watching. If you guys have any comments or thoughts, questions, even, please post them. But Joel was on our podcast several weeks ago, and very similarly, she has a great group that focuses on health and wellness, which I really enjoy.
Yeah.
So, and she just wanted to share this as well, that she likes writing in her books. I'm very much a pen and paper person too. As a matter of fact, before we were getting on, I'm writing notes for my team meeting, and like everything I do is still pen and paper. And I
Yep.
love the feel of the book. Um, I also love listening to podcasts as well. Recently, David Goggins is probably my go-to. Andy Frisella, 75 Hard,
Absolutely.
another great one. Your entrepreneur bookshelf is really a passion project, right? Uh,
100%.
right. And so, tell us, what are your goals in the future with
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. So right before I go into that and bring that back, thank you. I appreciate that comment. For example, I can pick any book here, but I'll just pick this one. As you can see, all my books are annotated very aggressively with their little stickies. There's like highlights, underlines, little
Mm,
notes to myself. In the front of the book, I have my own little index that I create, right?
mhm.
So I can literally just go here to the front and I'll know all the most important things that are in this book and exactly what page to go to. And then I'll have these little bad boys there with the main takeaways of my book. So all of my books that I read, it's not about how many books you read, it's about how many well-read books you
Right.
have, right? So with good books, it's not about how many you get through, it's about how many get through to you. You know what I mean?
Right.
So this one here, 5 a.m. Club, one of my favorite books of all time. But anyways, that's what I do with all my books. Just like she said, I love to annotate in them. Marginalia, that's what it's all about. Yes.
Yep,
So
yep.
to address,
Hey, you guys are totally on the same level in just in so many ways.
yep.
Just having had both of you on here. Um, yeah,
I didn't address your question. I didn't address your question. You said, what is the project, the
the
goal?
future. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, let me not divert from that. So, my goal is two things with Entrepreneur's Bookshelf. Number
Mhm.
one, I just filmed my first digital course, which is morning and evening routine mastery. So I have gone through.
Not
I
quite.
have, do you have tattoos as well? Just kidding. So, I read books like this one, 5 a.m. Club, Robin Sharma, Hal Elrod, what is that called? Miracle Morning. I've listened to all kinds of things over the years, many years of like morning and evening routine, right? And I decided to incorporate my own. So my morning and evening routine in 1 year has doubled my income
Mhm.
because of the systems that I implemented. When Fat Class Marketing launched, that all started because of a morning and an evening routine, discipline, habits, focus, commitment, all of those things, and the bookends of your day, right? Making sure I start off the day just right and I end the day just right to make sure the next morning is effective, right? Once I started implementing a morning and evening routine, my income doubled in that year. And I was like, okay, there's something to this because and it didn't happen before. It happened when I implemented these systems. So I did basically develop my own system that I learned throughout all these, taking this and this from all these other places and tweaking things based on how I saw them. And that is the first digital course that I'm going to launch. And then I'm going to have others on common placing, for example, the art of filing your systems away, everything that you're learning from all these different things, how to do it. Uh, there's a whole nother thing there. Even reading, effective reading tips. There's going to be a course on that. So I'm going to have one course at a time pop out. That's project one. Project two is I'm going to take something very similar to like MentorBox. I don't know if you ever heard of that company, but I'm going to have a paid subscription program where I'm going to ship one book a month to all the subscribers. That's going to have a breakdown of that book, and I'm going to be interviewing the authors of those books in live within the group, and it'll come with some workbooks and various different things. That is going to be pretty exciting. So that's what's in the works as we speak.
Excellent. That sounds really cool. And Joel was saying we need to have all our guests share their personal book list. I have a group. Everybody has a group, right? I have a group that it was called Master Fitness, right before Master Motivation, and I use the Master just because like my wrestling persona was Master Flame, and I'm Master Flame in the karate school, so it's just kind of stuck with that. Anyway, this Master Fitness group. Then I kind of moved it into being a 75 hard, posting. I've considered changing that just into a Master Motivation group and inviting all of you guys in it. My only thought was like, Joel's got her group and Jose's got his group, and is there too many groups? I don't know. So maybe that's a good idea. I guess maybe we could work that into that group there where we can share. Because I was going to ask you too, Jose, if you had to give us your top, gosh, do I say three or five? How about top five? Top five books that you would recommend people read.
Whew. Well, I will definitely. There's too many to name, but if I had to give you some different ones, because I don't want to say like Think and Grow Rich, because that would be in the top five, but everybody's read that or at least knows about it.
Right.
So if I had to kind of go into, and if you're okay with this, I'd rather give you five that are not as famous. You know
Okay.
what I mean?
Perfect.
So that is maybe something different for somebody. So number one would be Robin Sharma, 5 a.m. Club. Absolutely phenomenal book. And I suspected you would ask me this, so I have them right next to me.
Perfect. Perfect. Perfect.
Number two, no particular order now, would be Show Your Work by Austin Cleon. Absolutely phenomenal. This book actually helped me put a name to what I was already doing. I share everything I do all the time. Katie, my wife, she said to me, Jose, why are you posting all the time? You're always constantly posting something about what you're doing. I was like, Katie, it's not because I'm bored, I have nothing to do. It's because I'm very intentional. Because at the end of the day, I'm very transparent with what I'm doing, how I'm progressing in life. So one day when things are where I want them to be, on a very high level, it's not a surprise. Like, you know exactly what I've been doing and how I've been doing it, and I've been showing you my work, right? So
Let
number
me let me let me stop you there real quick because something that I was thinking about as you were saying that, my wife actually says the same thing about,
yep,
why you post your workouts, why you post your doing 75 hard. For me, part of it, and maybe for you too, there's an accountability to it, right?
yep,
When you're letting people know. I mean, like when I set a goal, I let everybody know what my goal is because then I can't back out.
yep.
Um, but how do you feel or how do you deal with people that say, because this is what I think people think or say when I'm posting a lot, and I know you post what you do a lot, about the, um, is it is it arrogant, is it showy, is it, what's the word that I'm looking for, um, do you hear what I'm getting at?
100%. I get what you're saying.
And so
And
how do you address that?
it's very simple. I don't. I don't waste time with little thoughts like that. Like that's like majoring in the minors, and I refuse to major in the minors because that doesn't affect me either way. Like if you don't like my post, you feel it's excessive. Well, there's a unfriend button. It's that simple. And I love everybody, and I'm friends with everybody, and I don't want anybody to defriend me. But if it annoys you, then just there's other people you can. There's options. Let's just say there's options, right? But I'm not doing it to be cocky or to tell you how great my life is. No, I am doing it because I'm sharing with people the themes of my life, which is my faith, my family, my my work ethic slash business, what I'm passionate about. These are things that I just share about. So people don't have to guess what is Jose all about. They kind of already know, and it's not like I'm putting on a persona per se because it is who I am. I'm just showing you behind the scenes of who I am, right? And it's interesting because ever since I've been doing that for the last 3 years, I can't tell you, Jason, how many people have private messaged me, called me, emailed me, talked to me when they see me in person, saying, "Jose, you motivated me to do this. I really appreciate how you're doing this. I think it's amazing how you're doing that.
Mhm.
Because you posted that, I brought this idea to me. Like it comes back full circle in so many different ways. So I would rather keep doing what I'm doing to cater to those people and not necessarily care about the people who are going to hate on you because guess what? That's just part of life. It is what it is, and you can't do anything about it, right?
Right. No, and I wanted you to say it because I agree 100%. I have found that the more we dwell on the haters,
Yeah,
right, the more we fall to that side. Whereas, I lean towards listening to you, listening to Joel, listening to all the people that Dave Kovar, who was a guest on the show last week.
yeah,
I lean towards their posts and find so much motivation, so much inspiration, and find myself being more productive because of it.
yeah,
Right. And I think
absolutely.
I think that that's super important for people to understand because there's other people out there that maybe don't post stuff
Yep.
because they're afraid of being viewed that way. And I think, like you said, very early on, lead from the front. We're being transparent of who we are to help. If anybody finds any inspiration from this video, today will be a great day, right? I mean, just hearing us talk about some of what we do, because we both do the same with other people. So let's get back to your book list. You got the 5 a.m. club and the show your work.
Yep.
And you have to post either links or pictures or titles after the video in the
Sure.
comments so people get these.
Yeah.
So the next three.
Next three, we have Lessons from a Third Grade Dropout by Dr. Rick Rigsby. Phenomenal book. And it says here how the timeless wisdom of one man can impact an entire generation. This guy, if you look up his YouTube video, Dr. Rick Rigsby, a third grade dropout, lessons from third grade dropout, that's where I found him, on a YouTube video, right?
Hmm.
Just like McRaven, what's his name? This guy, Admiral William H. McRaven. Make Your Bed.
Mm-hmm.
This is another one. This is number 4, actually. So really easy, straightforward read. Not the most popular thing in the world unless you saw his YouTube video. But these two are I just stumbled upon YouTube video because I follow certain type of content, right? And things get suggested to me, and then I stumbled upon these two, and I bought their books, and phenomenal. And it made me pursue their other books. So anyway, number 5 is Your Best Year Ever by Michael Hyatt. And this one is all about how to set goals, New Year's resolutions, how to follow through on them and prepare them effectively. Your 10 life domains: spiritual, intellectual, emotional, physical, social, avocational, vocational. There's like 10 domains, and how to set the goals and how to not just set goals, but hit goals.
Well, awesome. Thanks for sharing that list. And again, please make sure to post that in there if you want to throw in links or anything else. As a matter of fact, make sure to put a link to Entrepreneur's Bookshelf in the comments so that anybody that might be watching this is like-minded and wants to join in on that.
Cool.
We're almost at the hour mark. I mean, it went super fast today. I feel like I don't know that I really got to ask you or talk to you about everything today, but thank you so much for everything that you've shared so far. I'm watching you from afar, right here. I'm out here in California, and
Yep.
it's been a bit since we've seen each other in person. I talked a little bit about how we had some great conversations about professional wrestling at one point. That
Yep.
was kind of our tie-in, and then obviously being in the same industry. But watching you from afar, I see everything that you're talking about here. Sharing your faith, talking about your family. I can see what a loving father and loving husband you are, and that just inspires me. That inspires me to work harder for my family to live that same lifestyle. And I'm very passionate about what I do, teaching martial arts and growing leaders inside and outside of the karate school and being involved in the community. So just again, thank you so much for sharing what you do share on social media, because it is being seen by many, and it is being admired and inspired. So keep that up and keep going with your group. I look forward to you getting the Fat Glass marketing back up and going and hearing more about that. I'd love to even hear more about, kind of your restaurant and bar, maybe stories. That might be a different show altogether.
Yep.
But again, thank you so much for being an inspiration. That's why you're on the show today. So thank you.
Jason, listen, I really appreciate the fact that you're having me on your show, and the caliber of people that you have on your show are very high level. So I watch a lot of your episodes. I saw the one with Dave Kovar and many others, and just to be in this group and to be able to be a part of your show, I am truly honored and humbled. And I don't say that lightly. I truly am. So first of all, thank you for that. Second of all, I also follow you, and you also inspire me tremendously. I saw your 75 hard journey. I know you're doing phase 1 now, and just everything you're about. You struck a chord with me when I first met you about professional wrestling, and I was like, this guy is somebody to know. And I see you with that Vince McMahon walk wherever you go, and I'm just like, he has swag. So I appreciate you very much. I'm glad to be here today.
Excellent. Well, hey, I'll let you close with any extra thoughts that you want to leave our viewers with today on any topic that you want to give some closing thoughts.
Yeah, first of all, hello, Mark Cox. See you soon indeed. Yeah, as I would like to say, anybody who is not reading at least 30 minutes a day, well, outside of Jason, you're doing 10 minutes a day.
I get 20. It takes me 20 minutes to read my 10 pages.
Okay. So if I would recommend 30 minutes a day. If you read 45 minutes a day, it shows that you're going to read one book a week, an average book a week, if you do 45 minutes a day. The top CEOs in this country read 60 books a year. That's the current stat, right? So I would just say for anybody who is not reading, it's going to absolutely change your game. And it's not just about reading, it's about reading good quality books and doing this. This is my word of the year for 2021: execute, right? And I have this here on my desk. And it's not about just acquiring all this knowledge upstairs and doing nothing with it. It's about applying what you're learning and being consistent and being focused and all these other things. But I would say everybody read books, apply books, and I would love to see you guys in the Entrepreneur's Bookshop. I'll put the link below.
Excellent. All right. Well, guys, that's the end of the show for today. Thank you so much for joining us. And any comments, if you want to throw your books in the comments, but please join his group. And we'll see you next week on Monday. We got a guest every single week. I apologize, I don't have my guest list in front of me, but I know that we do have some great guests coming up throughout the year. Mr. Mark Cox will be a guest very soon, and my instructor Dennis Ichikawa will be one of my featured guests this month as well. So look forward to having you guys back. And Jose, I look forward to seeing you in person, maybe at an event. I know it's not going to be the Super Show this year because
Yeah.
we're not having a Super Show, but at some point we will catch up again in person and we'll chat some more.
Thank you, sir. We'll see you
All right,
soon.
guys. Thank you so much. I'm going to close it out with the video once again, and we will see you all next week. Take care. Thanks again, Jose.
Thank you.